Thanks, everybody. Welcome to Build. I am your host, Ricky Camilleri, and our next guest is a comedian, a musician, an actor, director, host, and now former candidate for Attorney General of the city of San Bernardino, California. In the new film, Mr. America, Tim Heidecker of On Cinema at the Cinema documents his journey from movie review host to political candidate, giving us a rare glimpse at the ups, downs, and failures on the campaign trail. Let's take a look at Mr. America, which hits theaters today.
All the chips are in on this. Everything's on the line financially, emotionally. Tim Heidecker. And I think we have a very good chance of winning. I'm running for San Bernardino District Attorney.
Oh, okay.
I'm coming out here talking to voters.
Oh, okay, for DA.
Yes, for District Attorney. I've said that 3 times now. We want an outsider to come in and shake things up because San Bernardino has gotten to be so corrupt. All these numbers, you see that it's just up, and that's all crime. If you commit a crime on my watch, you're going to jail forever. That's the community we want to create.
In large sections of San Bernardino County, Mr. Heidecker is persona non grata.
You have no right to be here after what you did.
I have permission from First Amendment.
He is perceived as a murderer who got away with it.
He disobeyed me, it's murder!
See that justice is done. Convict this individual.
As far as the DA goes, this Rossetti has turned out to be a total rat. And I don't know how you find these people, if you elect them or not, but maybe he'll have some competition next time. Hey, Rossetti! Oh, Vincent Rossetti, District Attorney in San Bernardino, is trying to kill me. It's attempted murder happening right here.
I think Tim's running for DA because he just wants to get revenge.
I am District Attorney Vincent Rossetti.
What's happening with the GoPro?
It's GoFundMe. I got it set up. Most of the time, GoFundMe is for people who are like sick or poor or starving. I really shouldn't technically be doing this, but...
He's running for district attorney, which is not going to really happen because he's not a lawyer. He doesn't live in San Bernardino.
Hey, Greg, stay out of my movie. Now that the race is tightening, can we put this in your window?
We see the rat beginning to cower.
He's hiding in some rat hole. He has to answer for his crimes. Come on. It's starting to feel real.
This is not going to cut it.
Knowing that it's only a few steps away. If I'm not on the ballot, how am I supposed to compete?
He doesn't have a chance.
From becoming not only district attorney, but hopefully even higher. I hope I have your vote.
Everybody, please welcome Tim Heidecker.
Thank you. Have these new chairs?
These are new chairs.
I was on stools last time I was
We were on
here,
stools
right?
last time. What do you
This
think?
is great.
You like them?
The stools were horrible.
Yeah.
They're terrible.
You got a pillow behind you as well.
Very comfortable. I'm very at ease.
Oh, that's good.
And I brought my green shoes back. Do you remember that?
No, you
don't
have green
remember.
shoes.
Why would you
on?
remember my footwear from the last time I was here?
It's tough. It's tough. I feel like, you know, since 2016, most great artists are having trouble making something without talking about the news, getting something out that they have inside of them based off of what happened in 2016 and just how pervasive the news is right now. Was Mr. America in some ways, whether you wanted it to be or not, your response to dealing with 2016 in the last couple of years?
Yeah, I think probably unconsciously, a little subconsciously, it's all there. But yeah, we'll just call him he.
Yeah. He's a shit's good
guy.
too, whatever you want, you know.
You know, he's totally affected my speech patterns in my real life and in my character. I mean, you know, on Cinema, Tim, who this movie is about, is a kind of your classic white American male who kind of latches on to whatever scheme kind of is coming past his consciousness. So he's the kind of guy that signs up for pyramid schemes and, you know, gets into vaping because
he's in a pyramid scheme right now, right?
Yeah,
with,
he's currently in a pyramid scheme with MoneyZap.com, which is
that's right.
free and easy access to quick cash. You know, no interest.
And Greg keeps telling him that he doesn't need to bring MoneyZap up because they aren't actually funding the show.
Yeah.
They just loaned him money.
Yeah, so it seemed likely that this would be the kind of guy that would see Donald Trump as a panacea to all the problems in his life.
Or as an inspiration.
As an inspiration, yeah. So, you know, we said, if, you know, we don't want the show to become like all political, but certainly my character dovetails nicely with Trump, and so yeah, I think we figured out a way to like satirize him and talk about him without it being obtusely, knocking you over the head with it, and not even mentioning his name in the movie. But he's so pervasive and he's so on our minds all the time, and we recognize sort of the flaws in him that when you see me in the suit that I'm wearing in the movie, I don't have to do very much more.
Right. And even in On Cinema, the suit, I feel like the ties have gotten longer in On Cinema as well. There was one recent one where you had your legs open and the tie was almost just like down to the floor.
Well, see, a mistake a comedian would make would be going to the floor with it.
Right, you go like,
I go to the bottom of the chair. And I think my zipper's also fully undone in that one as well.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Do you
kind of going for the Eric Trump look.
Yeah, where it just like everything is off.
Yeah.
Right, at least
the beard, which is, the beard that's groomed but not coming in right, not coming in consistently.
It's almost like too polished in some respects, right? Is there a catharsis for you in getting to sort of perform this id like this?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't mean in terms of like your life. I just mean in terms of, like we said, the last couple years. Like getting to display this idiocy in this way with.
Yeah, it's fun and easy for me to do, and I enjoy doing it, and I enjoy doing it with my friends who I get to make this show with, Greg and Eric Natornicola, and our producer, and it's a very playful, fun experience to actually make it. But I was talking to somebody who saw the movie and said it was cathartic for them to watch this sort of Trumpian clown running for office and being so obtuse and racist and horrible and not appropriate, to be in any kind of elected office, and seeing him fail and lose and not achieve power and success,
not fail into office.
Yeah, and so there was like comfort in that. To them watching that.
Do you feel
as it should be,
How, do you ever worry, how does this land? How does this comedy still land when Jacob Wool exists?
Yeah, I mean,
I watched his press conference last week, and it was
with the Elizabeth Warren thing.
I was kind of like, please put this on Blu-ray with director's commentary.
Right.
This is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life.
It's wild. Yeah, you're right. I'm probably getting out of the game within the next year or two. Sorry, guys. How much more of this bullshit can I do? I
mean, it's wild that you are presenting this character as a joke, and everybody gets that it's a joke.
Not everybody.
Oh, not everybody?
No. I mean, well, we don't have to get into this, but there are people that don't find this shit funny, or don't get it, or are confused and are sort of, I think my whole career has been comedy is very personal for people, and if you don't think it's funny, and you see it succeeding in some way where it's being presented to an audience,
of course,
it's frustrating, and people get mad about it. So I think as this movie comes out into the mainstream, the Magnolia's, who's releasing this movie, has been terrific, and they're like, we love this movie, we believe in it, we want everyone to see it. Thank you. There's critics who are like, well, there's not one joke in this whole movie. And I was like, and you saw the trailer, like, you people, there's jokes. It's funny, I think. But when you don't connect with that joke,
I mean, Greg alone is like, every time Greg is on screen, he is doing a joke about being obsessed with movies, and they're trying to. I mean, it's like a.
Well, it probably hits a little close to home for some of them.
For some of the critics.
Yeah, for some of the critics.
They're
like, oh my God, I've wasted my entire life.
What's so funny? That is where they shot that movie.
Right. Yeah.
I love that park.
Yeah.
How, when you came up with this idea, was it immediately you knew it was going to be a part of the On Cinema family? Was it just sort of like a building extension of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a long and winding road, but we had made the Trial, which was sort of the first piece of the On Cinema universe that kind of existed outside of the part of the show that we could control.
How much did you shoot for the Trial?
Well, how much did we shoot? We shot it kind of in real time. We shot it, I think, over the course of 4 days or something, 3 or 4 days.
How much of that was scripted, and how much of that was you guys kind of just setting the stage for
a lot of it was scripted for most of the characters except for me, and I went in there reacting to everything else that was written.
Right.
I didn't write my stuff. I which, you know, you want there to be a sense of like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. This guy is not a lawyer, so how could he know? But so a lot of it was improvised. But the actors we got to play all these characters had legal experience. They were lawyers and stuff. So they were there being like, well, here's how this would actually go. Here's how you would react to this kind of evidence or whatever.
That's like only in LA, where
Yeah,
you would be like,
there's
where you're like, I'm a lawyer and an actor.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like going down to the fish hatchery and fishing, you know.
I'm a judge, and I've done some acting in my day. Yeah.
But so after that, we were like, ooh, this would be nice to see what happens to this character if he wanted to run against the district attorney and sort of as a revenge campaign. And how would we present that? We wouldn't be in control of showing the world how that went. You know, it would be maybe a filmmaker that came in and decided to follow that. So then we went out and shot it.
Did you look at previous campaign documentaries like Street Fight or any of the others?
Yeah, those, and The Perfect Candidate was a great one from the 90s about Oliver North running for Senate. Yeah, just and also like murder documentaries, because it was like, you know, making a murderer and like the structure of those. But it's kind of an accidental movie, because we thought we would just kind of shoot this little web special, or like, you know, like The Trial, like what is that? Where does that exist? It kind of just lives on the internet. But we shot. The breaking news is we shot for 3 days, and came back with a movie. So, you know, I don't know, you guys probably haven't seen the movie yet, but it's something you might not want to know before you see the movie. But now,
I mean, I've seen the movie, and I'm not just saying this because you're here, but it doesn't feel like a 3-day shoot. You do an incredible job of mimicking these campaign documentaries that we've seen, which are shot over the course of like 6 months usually.
Yeah. So we pulled off a little magic trick with how we made it, and we were not expecting to put it out as a movie. We just thought it would be a great, fun thing for the family, the On Cinema family. But friends of ours saw it. Nathan Fielder saw like an early cut, and he had already kind of gone through this process where he had made this amazing thing called Fighting Francis, which was the finale of the finale, which was a movie. You know, it was just like it was a straight ahead film, but he couldn't really release it in a way that made it, you know, acceptable as a film that people would review. And so he was like, I've been through this. You guys gotta like hit the brakes, do some more work on this, and see if you can find a way to get it out, and to, you know, to be in the position where we are right now, where we have a freaking beautiful poster and people talking about it for good or for better or for worse. But
this is the second feature, right, that you've released. I mean, this and $1 Billion Movie.
Yeah, well, yeah, that we've
theatrical release.
Yeah. And
both of which, not to belabor the reviews at all, but both of which were critics just don't really get.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I should be pleased with all of this, because there's, you know, it's just like, fuck them, you know, fuck them, right? Like, why should I give a shit what these lowlifes think, you know?
I agree. Absolute lowlife.
And it's true that for the past 8 years, the central premise of the On Cinema show has been laughing at what they do for a living. You know? I mean, it's been this sort of like it started as a premise of like this river of shit, which are generally movies that come out. You know, like your average movie. It's like, you know, you look at the boxes of VHS tapes that Greg has. You know, there's a great old clip of Siskel and Ebert that's going around where they're arguing about Baby's Day Out. Have you seen this?
And
it's like, I can't believe they're talking about Baby's Day Out as like having a serious discussion about whether it's a good movie or not. And it's like
the one Ebert doesn't like it, right? But Siskel likes it, I think.
I think Ebert hated it.
And Ebert's
Siskel
like,
thought
this
it was,
movie is offensive.
Yeah, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. And Siskel is like, it's fun. I liked it. It was cute. It was smart. You know, like, oh my God, you're gonna do that about, you know, the 500 movies? Like, how can you review the 17th iteration of a Spider-Man movie? What is there to say?
And seriously, and do it seriously.
Yeah.
As if there is is some sort of addition to like to culture in any way.
Yeah. So So now we're gonna take some hits for that, but
Well,
it's a snake eating its own tail, I guess.
In that regard, what did you think of, and maybe this is too tangential, but of last week, Martin Scorsese said apparently that, you know, he doesn't believe that the Marvel Cinematic Universe or comic book movies are cinema,
Right.
to which comic book movie fans were like, how dare you? Meh.
Well, it's insane. The whole thing. I get like he should be able to say whatever the fuck he wants.
He's Martin Scorsese.
Yeah, like, and I probably agree with him. I don't watch those movies. I find them irritating to my brain. I can't follow them. I don't know what's going on. I get like I fall asleep.
Right.
You know, even the ones that I'm in. You know. I mean, I'm in Ant-Man. I'm in Fantastic Four. I'm in these things, and I don't know what's going on. But also, people should be able to be mad at Martin Scorsese for saying that too. You know, everybody should be able to say whatever they want with respect. I shouldn't say fuck the critics either. So that's disrespectful.
You also wouldn't be saying that if the critics had been largely positive.
If they loved it, I'd be like, see, told you, it's great.
It is great.
And I will tweet the positive reviews. I'll embrace them. These guys are smart. These guys get
This
it.
is where
These are not the hacks.
This is
These
where
are
the
right
on
ones.
cinema Tim comes out of the real Tim, right?
And listen, I'm a Irish, angry fighting man, you know, and I'm defensive of my people too, like the people that made this movie with me. You know, they don't have a voice. Can you believe me? What have I become?
You one thing that I'm kind of always in awe of when it comes to you is how prolific you are. I mean, you also released an album not that long ago, right? You're about to do another world tour.
Yeah.
With Eric.
Mandatory tour.
And mandatory tour
For us
excuse
and
me.
in the audience. We're
And
all
you're
required.
releasing this movie right now. How do you find the time to do all these things? Like, how do you find the time to write songs while you're shooting this movie or editing this movie?
Well, I made this movie, like I said, in 3 days, so that didn't take too much time. I shot
You
this
were editing
movie
it for some
Yeah,
time, right?
I mean, it's you know, you get yourself a good calendar app, like the calendar app in Apple products. Great calendar app. Great, you share it with people. I made this movie while I was shooting Us. Like over the weekend, kind of like I have a week off of the movie Us. I couldn't shave my beard, so we drew in we did my look in the movie is sort of contingent on not shaving a beard.
You did this over the weekend while you were shooting Up?
I'm exaggerating a little bit, but yeah, it was like I had some time off from that, and I said this is the window we can do it. You know, yeah, it's boring. It's scheduling. It's just like prioritizing things.
Sure, but I mean, what about coming up with the ideas, writing? Because that's the kind of stuff that like you can schedule around, but also like it requires creative impulse and it requires spark of some kind that sometimes scheduling doesn't help.
No, it does, because Greg and Eric, the two people I mainly collaborate on this with, are brilliant as I was going to say as well, which then indicates I believe I'm brilliant, but. They're brilliant,
with it, man.
And we can get stuff done pretty quickly, idea-wise. We sit around, we don't belabor. I'm very impatient, and I don't like overanalyze any of the ideas. We don't sit around and write 1,000 things. We don't worry about it. We just kind of go with our gut a lot of the time and say, let's try it. You know, we don't have the time or money to spend thinking about it too much. So, you know, it's not laborious.
Have you found that
Laborious. Laborious? Laborious.
laborious? I think
Laborious.
lugubrious.
I'm going to say laborious.
Have you found that since the beginning, since you guys did Awesome Show, that is how you have to work? That is where you'll get the best results? Is trusting your gut and moving really fast?
Yeah, it seems like it would stop being fun to do. Like, the fun part is the making of the thing, and I realized that pretty early. Like, there's some satisfaction when it comes out and people see it, and people either, you know, when people like it, it's nice. But that's never been the reason for me to do anything. It's always been to just create with people you like to be around, and to be, whether it's making music with great musicians or being with Greg and Eric here, laughing and crying laughing about what we hope this will be, you know, in that early writing stage. Like, just, oh my God, look, what if this happened? You know, that part of the experience is why I do everything I do. But you have to also put it out, and then it's like a different, you know, then it's hard. Then it becomes hard and scary.
Does that mean that you would never feel comfortable like doing a movie that required like serious development, or a TV show that required serious development? I mean, the closest thing in terms of TV, and I think just because of how polished it is
Right.
Bedtime Stories.
Yeah. Still, there was no real input from,
Yeah.
you know, it was like,
Come up with the
we
idea.
just wanted it to look more polished and more refined and more serious. But yeah, I wouldn't know I don't know how I would handle that experience. I mean, hopefully you'd be working with good studio people that, you know, could be interesting if it was the right people.
Have you guys
the
ever
right
done that,
collaborative.
like pitch to studios and stuff?
Think so. No, we want to do Whale Man with Marvel, you know, but they're not returning our phone calls.
I guess that's true. That's really the only thing that studios kind of do at this point.
Yeah, I don't know. There might have been a time when there was really, you know, involved executives who really like had a lot of, but I think now they're just sort of like, no one knows what the hell.
What do we got
to
in the
do.
vault?
Yeah.
Like, let's pull it out and make it.
No one knows anything. And that was always Adult Swim's attitude, which was a good one, which was, who am I? I'm not an expert on what people are going to like or not like, so just go and try, and you're either going to succeed or fail, and we can talk about it then, see what worked.
And you've really stayed with Adult Swim since the beginning, since you guys began, right?
Yeah, I mean, they've always just been willing to go where we want to go, and we're doing a new thing with them that we'll talk about later at another point, perhaps next year. Very exciting.
Not in this interview.
Yeah, not
Okay.
in this interview.
But
it's a little tease, we call. Promise to come back.
Business? That's what we call
that?
that?
It's a tease.
Oh,
It's a little tease.
consider me teased.
They're always just cool. They're like, go for it. Let's see what happens. And there really isn't anybody else like that right now.
When it comes to On Cinema, which, I mean, as a person who loves movies, one, and two, has had to sit on a stage and talk about movies and how they think about movies.
Yeah.
I love On
You love
Cinema.
movies too. Don't get me wrong.
No, I
love
know
them.
you do, but I feel I relate very much to sitting there and having to sort of like bullshit about something that you just kind of didn't care that much about at all.
Yeah, I bet.
You know?
I bet you do.
Yeah. Stick around today.
Oh wow.
And I'm wondering, I'm wondering how many like do you guys shoot all of them in one day? Have you started just writing basically what the stories are between Tim and Greg versus, because the movies have nothing to do with it anymore. At the beginning, there was like a slight review of the movie.
Well, the last review we did of Joker was me under the assumption that Robert De Niro was playing the Joker, and so I was like, "This is De Niro's best work. He's unbelievable. Like, you know, finally you had Jack Nicholson, now you have Robert De Niro." And yeah, so the show's not so much about the movies. It never has been, but
are we gonna get to see Greg's classic movie time this season at all, or is that just not gonna make it
the
to
best
air?
thing, we do shoot it in one day. I think I've said this before. We shoot the season in one day.
Right.
It moves so quick. We're 20 minutes for each episode. Like, next thing, turn on, you know, change my. So after that day, Greg and I have like full amnesia. After what, you know, we know the story. We write the whole season as like a story, an arc, and everything, how we want it to go. We have no memory of what happened that day. So then 2 weeks later, we start getting cuts from our editors, and I'm laughing like a fan because I'm like, oh, I don't remember any of this. I was so in it, and I was so not like conscious of that moment, and so like kind of in my own head space. So I don't remember if we ever do that in this season. I can't wait to find out.
Do you find that
Greg and I were driving to an interview yesterday and watching a new cut from something that's coming in the next few weeks. We were like children, crying, laughing, and really at myself, and at Mark Proch, who's in this new season, and we were just like, it's like our favorite shit, and it's so fun after all these years to still be so amused by ourselves, you know,
Right.
and still get so much of it. It's not a chore. It's just we're so giddy about it still.
And you're not thinking too much about how other people are going to respond. It's if you're responding that way, then it's working for you.
Yeah. We care about the audience, and there's a really great community that's built up around this show in particular. That's like some of the funniest and most creative people just engaging with it and making their own stuff and playing in character and stuff. And so we like pay attention to that to some degree and like notice like, oh, this Money Zap thing's really working well and people are really having fun with that. Like, that's cool.
Do you find on the day that you're, as much as you've written and outlines for what you're going to do, like you're shooting episode 2 and all of a sudden a random idea comes out because you're in it and now you have to start sort of pocketing that into later episodes?
Sort of, yeah. That has happened. I mean, the whole Victorville Film Archive, I think, came out of just an improv that Greg said, you know, I'm in Victorville, I'm starting this film archive there. I'm sure that wasn't written ahead of time, but that's become like a major, you know, cornerstone of the show. And this guy's wearing a Victorville Film Archive T-shirt. Very cool. But yeah, so it's like some of it's writing ahead of time.
Burn it down?
I've burned down a couple of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of it's improvised, some of it's thought ahead of time, but it's also just being open to like the universe a little bit, like open to what feels right, and everybody kind of quickly adapting to it, changing it, and going with it. That's a lot of the reason we're able to make the movie so efficiently is the team really understands each other really well. We have a very quick shorthand. We can adapt. We can change scenes. I could say, you know what, this guy we should be drinking Bud Light. Can someone go get a case of Bud Light? You know, like. And then it's happening, and you know we're.
Do you find, obviously that's your preferred method to work, but have you found after doing something that is more tightly scripted, like Eastbound, or even like Ant-Man, or even like Us, that is exactly how you want to work? That you don't particularly love working or do you love working in the more tightly scripted movies and TV shows?
It's a different tool, or it's a different muscle. It's I don't think I'm better at the thing I do. I think in general. But I can do that other thing. And in the case of like something like Us, I got to work with, again, a great group of people. Yeah. Jordan is unbelievable and also fun and nice and easy and was happy to have me there. So I think like if the environment is right and the people you're working with are happy that you're there and not just sort of, you know, sometimes I've done projects where I'm kind of like a piece of furniture, you know, or they're like, who are you? Oh, you're playing, you know, the gym teacher? Okay, and they're wiring you up and kind of, you know, the sound guy's got bad breath and, you know, you're just sort of like, I don't need to do this, you know, like, why am I doing this? There's other actors that are probably better at this.
Is that something that you learned early on when you started getting cast for?
Yeah, I realized like I don't have to do everything I'm offered. I don't need that ego stroke.
Yeah. Because usually it's not an ego stroke.
It's
usually
in the
kind
end,
of like an ego punishing, like punishes your ego a little bit.
Yeah, and there's a tone and a delivery of some of those projects that doesn't fit well with what I can do, and it's hard. It's like work. Yeah. I don't like to work. You know, I'd like to pretend and play and experiment and stuff, but you know, like I said, the thing with Jordan and that movie was it was as close to like the way I work as I've seen, so it was fun.
Yeah, you and Elizabeth Moss were hilarious in that movie.
Yeah.
What was it like working with her?
She was great. I mean, we both were like excited. We're like, what are we doing in this movie?
Right.
How cool that we're in this Jordan Peele's next movie. This is just like you won a ticket to the Super Bowl or something. Just didn't. It was like stupid. I was like, this is hilarious. I hope I don't ruin your. I think when we finally saw it, we were both like, we didn't ruin the movie. Like, that was all we were hoping.
That's true, because you guys are doing a very different thing than the rest, which is what I mean, I loved your characters. Arguably, maybe my favorite part of the movie, because you were doing such a different thing than the rest of the movie, and somehow yet it still worked. You were, in a lot of ways, the comic relief, even though you were mostly just mean to each other.
Right. Yeah. Jordan, he was like, I could shoot this for days. You two just kind of
I could watch that for
bickering
days.
at each other. So yeah, it was fun. It was great.
A few questions from the audience. Who has a question? Right here.
It's on.
Test.
Firstly, Tim, I gotta say thank you for all the
props to how you're holding the microphone, by the way, way up here.
Well,
he's whoa, yo.
Yeah, but thank you for all the consistent work through the years.
Thank you.
It's awesome. I am a big fan of your work with Rick Alverson.
Yeah.
Both the comedy and entertainment. Really showed your unique take on drama. And I was just wondering how the two of you linked up And is there any plans for anything in the future?
See Alverson's new movie? The
Yeah,
Mountain?
it's
great, right?
great and
Very
it's
amazing.
brutal and like and beautiful, and everyone go see The Mountain with Jeff
Unbelievable
Goldblum.
movie.
Yeah, I think it's on streaming soon. But
Fortunate. It's like I saw it in the theater and it was
it's
just
so
like,
gorgeous.
yeah.
4:3 aspect. It's like very Kubrickian.
It reminded me of The Master in a way,
yeah.
and it felt as beautiful as
Yeah.
that.
Rick and I met. I think he was looking for comedians that knew each other to explore the themes of the comedy, and we. I think he was sussing me out to try to get to Zach. Actually, and I think that's the truth.
Really?
Yeah, he was trying to like, can you get me in touch with Zach? I've got a part for him in a movie, and said, well, Zach's not gonna do it, but maybe you want to do it, you know. So yeah, we just hit it off and got along really well, and I'll support Rick in everything he does, and I would love to make another movie. I keep trying to get him to do a sequel to the comedy. Would you guess what it would be called? The Drama. And then maybe, but yeah, I want to see what happened to that guy. But he doesn't want to do it. So.
That was like his second movie, right? After the one that he made with Will Oldham.
He made
I
a
think?
few before that.
Oh, he made a few before that.
Well, let's not make this about Rick.
No, but that is another. But that is another movie that was maligned and completely misunderstood by critics.
It's my life.
That they thought that you guys were endorsing this behavior,
right.
and that it wasn't. I mean, it was about entitlement and it was about privilege.
Yeah, it was a satire, or it was a critical look at your Williamsburg Trust Fund 40-year-old alcoholic who doesn't take life seriously and there's no consequences for his decisions, and But some people thought we were just like celebrating that kind of person, but I couldn't. I mean, just the music choices alone were like, have you ever seen a movie before?
Next question. They told me to stand right here. Tim, what an honor to talk to the father of the On Cinema family, I just got to say.
You're dressed very sharply. I like it.
Oh, I couldn't work from home
okay.
today. Yeah. So I discovered you guys on Cinema, you and Greg, by watching Red Letter Media.
Oh, yeah.
For things that are similar.
Yeah.
I think the first episode I saw you guys, because I was looking for actual reviews, and the titles are the reviews. I think you were having a contest for who could give their skin for your face or something.
Yeah. Just a normal thing to say.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And then I was like, what in the world is this? Then when you get it, it's awesome. But do you have any, like, how did that start with Red Letter Media? Like, how did you, because you're on an episode of Half in the Bag, their web series. Like,
yeah.
How did you get in touch with those guys? Would you ever work with them again?
I'd love to. I saw I was a big fan of this Mr. Plinkett's, his review of one of the Star Wars movies. It's a really great, very mean, but really smart take on movie. Like, those guys are actually really, really smart about movies in a way that we aren't. Like, we're obviously like not interested in actually talking about movies. They're very intelligent but funny and sort of like very critical, but in an interesting way that makes, I think, like they should be shown at film school. Like, they do an hour review of the new Ghostbusters with whoever's in that. I can't, the women. I can't think of any of their names right now, but you know who I'm talking
Kristen
about.
Wiig, Melissa McCarthy, Kate McKinnon.
Yeah, thank you.
Leslie Jones,
No disrespect to them, but the review is
Ruined
very
my
disrespectful
childhood.
to them. It's an hour review, and it is so educational about why comedy works, why the first movie works, what mistakes they felt were going on in that movie. But I was like, if you want to learn about making movies and making comedy, those guys are a great place to look.
You'd work with them again, Tim?
Would I work with them again? Absolutely not. Unequivocally, no. No, I just happened to be in Milwaukee, which is where they shoot that, and I said I can come down and do something if you want. But
you say that you guys aren't interested in talking about movies, but Greg clearly is interested in talking about movies, but he has nothing to say, which is sort of my favorite part about his character.
Yeah.
All he has to say is like, I thought this was a great movie, very well. It's like the typical review from a person who doesn't actually know how to analyze the text.
Well, the other thing I find very amusing about Greg's character is that whenever he's put in position to make something, he clearly has no concept of what something should, what something of quality should be. We do a live show, and he comes out as in the Decker play as Kinkton, and he comes out and he says, have no fear, Kingdon is here. And he starts applauding. And you're like, Greg, you love movies. You've seen all these movies, apparently. You know that's not good entertainment. That's not like how you're supposed to do things. So, yeah, it's amusing to me.
When did you guys first come up with the idea for On Cinema?
Probably 8. Well, speaking of the comedy, we were shooting the comedy, and Greg and I were together sharing an apartment while we were shooting that. And we were killing time, and there was all these comedians coming out with podcasts at the time, and they still are. But at the time, it was kind of this thing where, like, God, all these people are just like putting out these podcasts and just like bloviating about what they had for breakfast, you know, and
Chinese restaurants.
Yeah, yeah. And, well, not that. Believe me. I know where you're going. Believe me, I'm going to stay away.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just felt very masturbatory.
Yeah.
And we thought we would do a spoof of that by talking about movies in a very glib, uninformed way. And yes, we took out my iPhone, pressed record, talked about Ghostbusters, coincidentally, without any thinking about it, or just a waste of time. You know, I love what time waste. Like, one of my favorite things is Robert Popper's Time Wasters books. There's a great series of letters. This brilliant guy, Robert Popper from the UK, who did Look Around You, the show Look Around You.
Oh yeah, of course.
These books, he writes these insane. They're kind of like the letters from a nut. These letters to hotels and to restaurants, and they're total wastes of time, wastes of everyone's time. It's really funny to read, but we love that's where it started, at least, was sort of this idea of we're wasting our time, we're wasting your time. It's nonsense. But it changed. It obviously grew from that into what it is now.
Yeah, when did you start finding that you could invoke sort of actual characters out of these reviewers?
In the podcast, we started as like a podcast. It sort of developed that my sort of natural tendencies towards quick to anger and also full of conspiracy theories and scams and schemes started popping in. And then there was developed this tension of Greg, I'm here to talk about movies. I'm not here to talk about, who did 9/11 or whatever, bad example.
Who did?
But, so that was like, there's a nice little natural comic tension that can potentially go on forever. And then when we shot the show, we're like, we can almost like a radio play where you can just talk about things. You don't have to actually go out and shoot them. So you can create these large storylines and elaborate events that I could say, last weekend I was at this music festival where all these kids died, and don't laugh. It's not funny, apparently.
I've heard.
Yeah. But so we just figured, we could do all these things affordably, and the story could also live online. It could live in our Twitter feeds, and it could live sort of in the way that characters are now, audience members are now wearing the VFA, the Victorville Film Archive merchandise, and it could be this weird amorphous thing.
I believe there's a new episode of On Cinema tonight at 9 p.m., right?
No.
Is it going to feature Eric, the director of Mr. America, and are you guys going to be talking about Mr. America?
We're talking about it. I guess I could
keep
hold off.
teasing it.
Yeah, I think I'll hold off on what our take on the movie is going to be, just for the audience to experience it. But we definitely have opinions on it.
Well, I kind of can't wait because I know that On Cinema Tim hasn't seen the movie yet, and
there should be this.
Excited
There should be this feeling of like our characters are sort of feeling like boxed out of the process, because it's like this idea that we didn't make the documentary. This director made it. And we had a misunderstanding about how much involvement we were going to have in the final product, And so I love that idea of like, I've lost control of how I'm being presented, which I assume like people like Anthony Weiner might have felt when they're shooting the Weiner documentary,
Which I just think is like a perfect conflict, though, for On Cinema Tim.
Yeah, it's a crisis. It's a nightmare.
One more question.
Hi there.
Hi.
Your music was brought up earlier, and so I'm wondering how the personas in your music relate to the On Cinema characters and the Tim Heidecker characters, and I guess in a larger sense, just how you cultivate all these individual personas throughout the multiple mediums that you work in.
Yeah, it's annoying and confusing for me and my audience, because it's a mess. It's an unorganized mess. I think I hope my audience can sort of like compartmentalize my different things I do. And I think I've been trying to teach that, or it's sort of like, hey, this is this thing, it's not this, you know, and the last record I made wasn't a joke, you know, but it was kind of in character. It was not an autobiographical record.
It's a breakup album.
It was a breakup album
Yeah.
because I love those kind of songs, but it's not a goof. It's, you know, and so it gets confusing on my Twitter feed when I'm like, come buy my new album, and also Greg is a rat, and and it's like, well, but does anyone have a problem with, like, are you able to sort of filter all through that, and it doesn't, it's like, whatever.
Personally, I was just wondering
Yeah.
how you felt about that too.
I feel it's annoying, and I apologize.
It's annoying for your audience, you think? Or for you?
For me, well, I don't know. It's just it gets a little overwhelming to try to keep all the balls up and.
Well, as much as you're doing a breakup album because you like albums like that or you like songs like that,
Yeah.
and you're not necessarily in the midst of a breakup of any kind, aren't the songs still sort of filled with how you feel?
Yes,
Because it's
yeah, for sure. When I did the press cycle on that one, I said, yeah, you know, these are certainly feelings I've had, and I've had relationships not work. I know people. It's, you know, you observe how other people deal with breakups and stuff like that. So, yeah, they're definitely, when you're writing a song, it's not a clinical procedural thing. It's definitely coming from like an emotional place. So it's definitely where a lot of that music came from.
Who's your biggest influence on your music?
I mean, there's so many, but you know, Randy Newman and Warren Zevon. I'm a big Beatle freak, and the Kinks. I mean, Ray Davies. Yeah, all the obvious ones. Joni Mitchell.
Well, Tim, I love Mr. America.
Thank you.
I'm so glad to see the On Cinema family get the feature film treatment.
Yeah, it's nice. Tonight, everyone's going to come out, and you're going to have Tim heads and Greg heads. We're hoping for no violence between them. That's
Tim Heidecker, everybody. Let's hear it.
Thank you.